Thank you so much, Ajman and Brother Peace. Welcome, everyone. I'm seeing folks from all over the country, from Berkeley to Bellingham to Philadelphia, Florida. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Monica, and I'm the Executive Director of the Factory Farming Awareness Coalition. We are a nonprofit dedicated to educating people about the impacts of their food choices as they relate to social justice, public health, animal welfare, and the environment. And we are very excited about today's webinar titled Food Justice in the Oakland Flats, Raw Soul Collective. I'm excited to introduce Ajman and Brother Peace today. A few brief housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and a recording will be shared with all registrants in a follow-up email, along with additional resources and information from our panelists. And the chat will be open throughout this entire webinar because we really do want to involve folks as much as possible. We'll be promoting many of you to panelists as well, and your video can be on or it can be off, but we really wanted this conversation to not just be us talking at you, but really you being as involved as possible, and we like being able to actually see folks. So that will be happening, but if you do not want to be on video, that is totally fine. Just keep chatting with us in the chat feature. Make sure it's to all panelists and attendees. All right, Brotha Peace and Ajman, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like this has been a long time in the making. We're really excited to highlight your work. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what brings you here today?
Hey, peace and love, y'all. It's Ajman.
This is Brotha Peace.
Yes, I am from Oakland, California, and my brother represents Richmond, California. We both represent the Bay Area. And yeah, we also represent Raw Soul Collective, which is an organization that's working to change our culture, yes, to celebrate health and raise our consciousness so that we are focused on, healing each other and our bodies, our minds, and our emotional states.
And this is work that we're very passionate about, and we look forward to keep growing and developing and just being of service to our community and building good relationships with our people.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit about your journeys to Raw Soul Collective? I know that there's a lot from visiting Africa to, influences from some of the folks at Mandela, like Michael.
Yes. Shout out to Michael. He also represents another part of Raw Soul Collective. Right now, we're at 4 members. We started with 3, and we just recruited another brother who is a youth entrepreneur. So we're covering a lot of ground. To break it down, we are a part of a community in the Bay Area that is very dedicated to fighting the front of, giving voice to the voiceless, and also making sure that folks are healthy in their minds and spirits. So my mentor, Brother Sasway, who I met in high school, was a huge inspiration to me, because around that time I was starting to gain consciousness. I had some awareness of the world around me from my father and my elders, but really, everybody was working. So I was kind of left to just be a youth in Oakland and, left to my own devices. And I didn't want to get into a lot that my peers were getting into, or sometimes just sucked into, which is the violence, the drugs, the just not really having any direction. And it's very easy to get sucked into negative circumstances. So my mentor in high school was a hip hop artist. I was very into rap at the moment. And so I was making my own beats. I was rapping, and I was always performing in the high school lunches. He came through and he was rapping, but he was spitting very positive lyrics, very culturally aware lyrics, not preachy, but just kind of like you could tell where his mind was and where the message was positivity, and he wanted to promote that. And I was enamored with that because I feel like that was like the essence of hip hop, speaking your perspective in an unapologetic way. And I've always respected all artists that do that from different sides. But because I was leaning towards consciousness, I wanted to see what it was about. And so I tapped in with him, and another brother of mine, Rashid, we tapped in with him. And this is a brother that I've been knowing for 10 years now, that brother that I met then. And he's exposed me to a lot. And so, my journey to health, it's to give thanks. I have to give thanks to certain people who have led me on that path, but I also have to be aware of the negative aspects of my environment that have led me to that path. So for instance, all of my family are cancer survivors in one way or another. My mom, She had tumors in her neck twice that were malignant, benign, but still, you know, that was a very scary time as a young boy. My dad, prostate cancer, all of my elders, breast cancer, prostate cancer. So I was very aware, like, yo, it's something going on. It's something going on that is not right in our communities with our health. And I think it comes down to our culture. It also comes down to our food choices and availability, and also systemic racism. All of these different things come into play. So I took it upon myself to research and find alternatives. So, you know, in high school, I stopped eating beef. I never really was a pork fan like that. My dad was into being a Muslim at a certain point. So I was kind of aware of, you know, not eating pork and kind of being more health conscious, but I stopped eating beef in high school because I heard that cloned meat was a thing and that was possibly going to be sold in stores. And I actually would like to be updated on if that's still a thing. But that scared me. I'm like, wait, you could be fed something that you didn't agree to, which was like a mind opener. And so I stopped eating beef, and then sooner or later, chicken came. And so now I'm a pescatarian, but I would say like 80 to 90% plant-based. It's very hard to give up fish, you know, and so I always talk about moderation and just keeping things at a very controllable level. Sugar, especially salt, those are things that I would highly suggest keeping at a low minimum. And then, you know, meat, make sure that it's very small in comparison to the veggies that you eat, you know. Also, just noticing the prison industrial complex, you know, taking a lot of our brothers and sisters and removing the guidance from our homes. And so I feel like Raw Soul Collective is also a light for our community to be there for the youth, to show them other pathways. You know, certain lifestyles look very glamorous due to, you know, the music that's promoted. And I love hip hop, but to be honest, the images that we see aren't necessarily what is reality. And people are making money off certain images. Just like people are making money off people being sick, there are incentives to keep people ignorant and dumb. So Raw Soul Collective is just here to help counter that and to meet the needs of our community in ways that are maybe not so obvious in the grand scheme of things, but to the individual interpersonal level, we're making a change by, you know, putting food in people's mouths, linking Black businesses together, and also providing, you know, just an alternative culture. So that's a little bit about how I got into this and my thoughts on it. You got something to add to that, Brother Peace?
I got something to add to that, and that was very powerful. And I have faith that y'all definitely tuned in and received what the brother was saying, because that's some real stuff. I can relate to him a lot on his journey. Like me growing up in Richmond, Richmond compared to Oakland, you know, it's very similar. Like we got our negative environments, we got bad influences and stuff like that. So me just growing up in the hood, I was exposed to a lot of negative stuff, but just throughout my life, I knew a lot of those things weren't righteous and weren't genuinely right for us as a people. A lot of things that got put upon our people is conditioning, the media and stuff like that. So I was aware of that. And in 2016, I had got shot 4 times. So I had to sit down, and with that time with sitting with myself getting shot, you know, I had to sit down for a few months. So within that time, I started doing a lot of research and looking online, learning about the food industry, doing research on my history, learning more about myself and just empowering myself and getting into meditation and stuff like that and tapping into some divine peace within myself. And then just truly embracing that, like, because growing up in my environment, it was not people promoting peace. It wasn't brothers and sisters like on that vibration, just promoting a lot of negativity and violence in self-destructive ways, you know. So throughout my time of recovering and healing and tapping into meditation and finding peace within myself, I started embracing that and just stepping out my comfort zone. Because growing up in Richmond, I was kind of like, had a box mentality, not want to step out of my environment, you know. But after getting shot, it really just shifted me to really want to open my mind and shift my perspective about life. And I realized I had a purpose down here. So just embracing that and just tapping into new different things in life and embracing different people. I started embracing the Oakland community, and that's how I met this brother and Brother Michael. And they were really good brothers on beautiful paths and what they were doing. And we also met at men's group. We got to connect at Determination. We got to connect at this men's group in Oakland. and we started building. I just met a group of different brothers that just was trying their best to empower themselves and connect with like minds. So that's how me and Ajman and brother Michael came together. And I just started building with them brothers more and more. And we continue to stay in contact, and just the works we'll be doing in the community will always bring us together, you know. And then the brothers started with Raw Soul Collective, and they tapped in with me. It was like, Brother Peace, you should tap in with us, brother. You're on the same vibe like mine and have a passion for life in the community. So I could see you working with us. And we all came together and found that flow and chemistry. Now we out here building and growing with Raw Soul Collective. So me and the brother can relate a lot, you know, and I can see that, I can honestly say this is a reflection of me, you know, and that's how we came together, and now we're building together and doing this work.
And also, I wanted to add on to, you asked about Africa. To give a little nuance, I went to Africa, but my brother here is touched some places too. You've been to Cuba and Haiti. So to touch on how I went to Africa, and then maybe you can give your story. So I am connected with the organization called Repair Nations. Repair Nations is a organization that is basically, they want to see a proliferation of cooperative co-ops, you know, folks who work in an organization, but they're worker owners. So the concept is cooperative economics. And, you know, you might see grocery stores follow that, that rubric, or, you know, certain organizations. I think Welch's is even a co-op. I could be mistaken. Ocean Spray, sorry. So basically, certain organizations, they get together, and if you work for that organization, you have responsibilities just like the CEO to the custodian, you know, depending on how it's structured, and it's a very democratic process. And I, for one, am seeing that to be something that's very beneficial for our communities, because you have a force within co-ops that kind of negates, you know, usurping resources from a community, and it promotes resources circulating in a community, and job security, and also it just promotes more access, because you have organizations that are based in not just creating money, but creating solutions, and that's their job, you know. So that organization brought us together, and we started doing education on cooperatives in the hood. And then we grew to say, hey, let's link with these folks in Ghana that we're connected with that are doing the same thing. And so the African culture in general, I don't want to say it's the same, but because they're not a monolith, but I will say collectivism is a main part of their culture. And I feel like in America, we're not opposed to that, but at the same time, our culture as of now is more individualistic. And so I feel like for our community, we have to kind of take an approach that's more communal. And so that connection across the waters has been very beneficial. We got to go to Ghana and experience, you know, what it's like to be in Africa and in a developing country. Ghana is nowhere near a third world country, I would say. But I would say this also not at the first world level. They have areas that are developed and areas that are not. And there's a lot of opportunity. But I would also say there's a lot of heavy unified culture. Like everyone there is Ghanaian, you know, and I really appreciated that. And I think we can learn that here in America, as well as Black people here can learn that. And so Africa was very enlightening to me, because I realized you can make a lot of things happen with your hands. You had people on the side of the road selling different foods, and you had people, you know, tailoring things. I had somebody make a jacket overnight, a customized jacket. I was like, what? So, you know, these things are possible. And, you know, I got to meet a sister who ran a co-op who was working with the government to create clothes. And, you know, she was getting contracts, and she was hiring folks in the community, and they had a nice operation going, and I got to make some cloth. I really encourage people to travel and see other cultures, so you can kind of compare and contrast, because people are at different experiences, and you can learn a lot from that. And so that's some of my experience in Ghana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to the brother on that experience. Like I encourage all of us to travel to the motherland and connect to Africa. That's somewhere that I definitely would like to travel to. But along my journey, I had traveled to a few places. I traveled to Europe. When I went to Europe in 2016 after I got shot, So just after getting shot, it really just changed my whole life. Like I just wanted to really just start embracing life to the fullest, you know, so just embracing things that I never did before and then connecting with people. So I got the opportunity to go to Europe, and I went out there. I went to um, Stockholm, and I went to Berlin, Germany, and Spain. That was a beautiful experience for me because I've been in the United States my whole life. That was my first time ever leaving the country for the first time. So it just was beautiful to see different cultures, and just it opened my mind. You know, just so much going on in the world, you know, from what I was conditioned to view the world, you know. So I went to Europe and I traveled to a few places out there, and I went to Cuba as well and Haiti, you know. So these are all places that I travel outside of the country, and I look forward to continue traveling. But also just seeing in certain places where, like in Haiti and also in Cuba, like it was a lot of poverty out there as well. But a lot of people who didn't have a lot of material needs, they were embracing the simple things in life. And I noticed that a lot more joy and contentment within a lot of people who didn't have as much as that we have in America, like the opportunities or just the materialistic things. But I've seen a lot of people genuinely happy. Whereas out here, people have all these opportunities and stuff, but a lot of people are still miserable, dealing with depression and all these things. So it was very interesting to get that observation. But, you know, I'm still on my journey learning, look forward to traveling some more and just being exposed to different cultures, because there's so much, you know, just different scenarios of how people are living out here, you know, and I'm open to learning.
Yeah, I mean, you all touched on so many different things there. I do want to shout out Michael Holmes, though, by the way. For those of you who are not familiar with Michael, he spoke to our interns last semester. We have been working with Michael, who is the founder of Sea Cuisine, which is entirely, you know, vegan, soul food, but also very healthy, cuisine that he delivers, and also does like a ton of pop-ups here in Oakland with, and he sources a lot of his food from Mandela Grocery and does a bunch of cooking at Mandela Grocery Co-op, which I know is supporting the tune-up boxes that Raw Soul Collective is giving away for free. And that's really cool for the whole community. I feel like I took so many notes while you all were talking about your journeys, and I very much welcome questions from anybody here in the chat, but I wanted to start off by saying that you talk about how these journeys they're not ending, right? They're continuous. There's still so much to learn. And it sounds like, you know, your journey is on plant-based, and after you were shot, and, you know, realizing that there was a connection with your family, cancer, Ajman, and like the environment and the food that we're eating, like all played a really big role. For a high schooler in Oakland to go from, you know, what you were eating to like not eating beef, like that is a really big deal. And in one of our meetings earlier, you talked about how there are a lot of associations associated with like eating meat and masculinity, and we were connecting that to body positivity. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, to unpack that question even a little more, as far as the struggle to make a change when your environment is different. I feel like you have different things that come up. And I feel like one of the main things is growth causes uncomfortability to you, and as well as the people around you. So when I started being like, I don't want to eat beef, it was almost like, you know, my mom is very supportive of me. She's a single parent, you know, but, you know, sometimes I feel like parents look at the opinion of their children as kind of like, yeah, okay, that's what you want to do. So I don't think she took me seriously until I was just like, no, I'm just not eating that, you know. And then I was kind of making my own money too. So I would just like eat and literally be okay when I came home. Like, no, Mom, I'm not hungry. And so my mom, I think once I started getting on her nerves about like these new things I was learning and trying to share with her, she started to kind of shift. And so I'm thankful that it wasn't really that hard to get my mom on the same page, you know, because she was buying the groceries in general. So, you know, I still kind of had to be at her whim, you know, as far as what came in the house, but she allowed me to have influence over what came in the house. So I would say the first thing is try to establish some kind of communication with the environment that you're in. And if that's your parents and you're in their house, most likely, try to, you know, have authentic conversations with them on, you know, your life choices and where you see yourself in terms of your diet, and just let them see how serious you are. Maybe even come with some facts. Like There's a lot of different documentaries out there that you could tap into to get a better perspective. So as far as the meat, I feel like my dad on the other side, he had his, it's very ironic, right? Because my dad, he exposed me to not eating pork, and he was very health conscious. But as I got older in high school and a little after I, started to not eat meat, he started getting a little more adversarial to those choices. And it was kind of weird, I think, because he had his own understandings of diet and what you need for your body. And he's coming from a perspective of you need protein, and if you don't get enough protein, it's bad, and you got to eat your meat. And I feel like even though I was kind of like still opposed and didn't follow what he was saying, I still kind of chose to eat less and less meat. I didn't really have the right response to him because honestly, I wasn't doing my due diligence to really understand what being vegetarian and vegan really is as far as the nutrients that you need. So I kind of just didn't engage him in that, but I just continued my path. But I would say that I would suggest anyone that wants to go on this path, take it a step further and just kind of understand what it means to not eat meat. You don't necessarily have to eat meat to get protein. There are sources like broccoli, kale, peas. These vegetables have high sources of protein, and you can supplement your food with moringa, which has high sources of iron as well as protein. Spirulina, chlorophyll, sea moss, chia seeds.
So many elements that you could tap in with.
And I wish I had somebody to just, lay these out, but now we have the internet that's, bountiful with information. And I would suggest still developing your critical mind because there is a lot of misinformation as well. And all of the things I just named, I could be anybody saying, try this, try that. And I wouldn't just say, take it on face value, even though I've tried these things. I would say chia seeds, what's that? I would say sea moss, what's that? Go research it. Sea moss gives you 92 of your 112, I believe, essential nutrients, or is it 102? Minerals. Yeah, so like things like that, I had no idea about in high school. And I wish I knew that so I could have a better conversation with my dad. But, everything comes full circle. After a while, he was like, after his battle with cancer, man, he stopped eating a lot of meat. He still does, but, he shifted a lot. And I'm thankful that he was able to make that shift because he saw how serious it was, And so, I would say that your environment is going to have opposition to your change. Just know that's part of the process. And the best thing you could do is arm yourself with knowledge.
Exactly. And I would advise anybody to just stay true to you and your truth. Like, because that's what I did, coming up on my journey of transitioning to a plant-based diet. I'm the only one in my family still, tapping into a plant-based diet. And I definitely have people like judging me and stuff. You can feel the energy at times, or people just like, man, what do you eat? Like, you don't eat the stuff we used to eat. So it's just like, but it's just like, a lot of people just not are aware of the things. So shout out to Brother Michael, because he really exposed me to different plant-based recipes to where it's like I'm on my own. I'm doing my own research now, and I'm expanding. And now I'm a plant-based chef, so I'll be whipping up as well. So I would just say stay true to you. And if you really feel that in your heart and spirit to want to make that transition to be health conscious, you have to do it. You have to, because you're not going to be happy. Because if you're not really listening to how you feel and you're just trying to impress like your family members and stuff or your friends, and you don't want to deal with them questioning you and judging you, no, you just got to be strong within who you are and know that this is what I want to do and choose for my path. And I'm going to stay true to that and be confident. When you be confident, you can also, people can see that on you and you can influence them. Because like now, people have it in my family haven't fully transitioned, but they're open now to trying some of my stuff. They be acknowledging now, like, oh, that smells good. Like, just giving compliments and stuff like that. So like, I'm just being a good example for my family, and slowly but surely some will catch on, and I noticed like slowly but surely some have been more open than how they used to be, so just stay true to you. You got to, and just be confident with that. And I think things will turn out good for you.
I don't know if you saw Jesse/Claudia's question about moringa, if you're able to speak a little bit more about that, and also connect this again back to you're saying, Brother Peace, that you were just starting to eat plant-based, cooking all this stuff, and your family just smelled it and they were willing to try it, because I think a lot of us don't always have that experience. And it's sometimes even more gradual than that. And we're, always talking about, like, should we use all these meat alternative products? You might have heard of the Beyond Burger, the Impossible Burger, as opposed to like the even healthier whole foods that are plant-based, right? And, getting people to go from eating, the equivalent of KFC chicken to trying something like moringa powder or, Korean lentils. That's a really big change for a lot of folks. Can you speak to a little bit about that?
Just a second.
So actually, I'm going to have you rerun that question one more time, but I did want to touch on body positivity before I left. I feel like there is something to say about, the protein part, find out your balance, what you feel like you need to meet your goals. I would consider a goal, like, what is your weight goal? It's not about losing weight, but it's about finding your optimal place. So it's not about what it looks like on TV or your favorite celebrity, if they're buff or whatever, trying to look like them. I started getting on a workout regimen, because I'm not the most buffest guy. I'm pretty slim, actually. And I think I have a high metabolism. And part of my acceptance of myself is just knowing that it's going to take a lot for me to get to a level of, bulk, that I really ideally want. But at the same time, I'm okay with myself. I love myself. I'm very happy with my choices, and I just work to be better, so I get on. I try to stay consistent with my regimen, and I do notice gains, and I notice when I fall off, my body kind of slims out pretty fast. And I remember in high school, it was a couple of times I went to the doctor like, yo, am I okay? And, it was just really, I wasn't eating the right stuff. Before I was vegetarian, I was still kind of like having this, I would lose 5 pounds, or gain 5 pounds. And it was because I wasn't really consistent with my workout regimen. And when I would chill out and kind of be a little lazy, that's what my body naturally does. It kind of like eats the excess fat, so that's just part of my genes. So part of accepting yourself is just looking around like, what is my gene pool actually doing? If you have that accessibility, most people do. You can look at your mom and your dad and just be like, well, I'm probably going to be somewhere in between there. And just work on accepting what the body that you've been born into, and then take steps to go towards where you want. But it's not about what people say you should look like, because there is no one size fits all, and it's all about just, taking it one step at a time to full acceptance of yourself inside and out. And then you had a question about, can you say your question one more time, Monica?
There's a question about moringa powder, and then also just how you're able to go from eating like burgers and chicken to moringa powder. Like, that doesn't happen overnight.
Oh, it's a transition. Like, for me personally, like I said, I had a good brother Mike Hill, that's part of Raw Soul Collective. I was tapping in with him consistently, and him just being an example of plant-based foods and recipes. So after I transitioned and fully got plant-based, then I learned about different supplements where you can get your protein and stuff. So I like to make a lot of smoothies and stuff. And also within my smoothies, I like to put different powders and stuff. I like to add sea moss. I like to add spirulina. I like to add moringa powder. And this is moringa powder right here. And it's just it strengthens your immune system, cleans your body from toxins, get rid of heavy metals and stuff like that. So, and it's protein, so I tap in with as many supplements that I can just to get that protein that I need, so you don't have to eat meat to get protein.
And I would say the biggest thing for me is, there's steps to get to a point of embracing all that nature has to offer. And we have to deprogram ourselves to go from what we're conditioned to something new. So if you're raised in a certain environment where y'all eat a lot of meat, maybe your step is to just add more vegetables to your plate first. Before you really start going into a full vegan diet, I would suggest making sure your meat portions are no bigger than a fist, and then move into slowly cutting that out as you're adding in variety of different vegetables that have more protein. Like I said, broccoli, eggplant is a good one. These different options that are very tasty if you season them well.
But definitely want to talk about like the incredible like deliciousness that is chickpeas, and those soups that you just listed sound amazing. And again, I've had the pleasure of eating so many of these great foods from Black Sea Cuisine, so I really want to endorse that right there. You did mention deprogramming earlier, and I do want to spend some time discussing this because that's a very powerful word, deprogramming. And I think that we've been talking about deprogramming in a lot of different contexts, right? From what we think of as like masculine or feminine ideals or body ideals in our environment to like what we eat. And we have already said that this is a very gradual thing, and it was inspired by a lot of events. But again, can you speak a little bit more about like how intense that word choice is, deprogram, as opposed to like just figuring it out? Like that's a very strong word.
Part of my deprogramming is when presented with facts that are different than mine, I don't have an emotional reaction. I listen to it, and then I'll be like, if I don't agree with it, I can still say that, and I don't necessarily have to have a full-on argument. But if I don't agree with it, I can also take it upon myself to make sure that my opinion is correct, and so part of deprogramming, I think, is a spiritual path as well, devoid of any religion, but more so like just you have to be clear about yourself and what you bring to the table in any situation, or how you view things, your already preconceived notions. If you could start to get a grasp of that, because we all have them. So I think part of it is just realizing that from the jump, and then two, working to move past that and seeing the nuances and things. Everything isn't black and white. There's always something in between that you probably didn't really consider that has to be in existence for those two extremes to be so robust. If you look at the political spectrum of, blue and red, that's not even the full spectrum, right? You have people in between. You have people that are not even in that context, of Democrat, Republican. So I think deprogramming is first about understanding that everything you thought you knew may not be true. And I think unlearning history, like for instance, another example of deprogramming is understanding the story of our historical heroes or villains, if you will. For instance, like Christopher Columbus. Recently our culture has gone through a change of not kind of celebrating him and actually celebrating the people that were actually harmed that from his discovery of America. So that's a deprogramming. And then once you understand that maybe he wasn't the hero, do I know anything about these indigenous people who were harmed? What kind of culture were they living before they got hurt by smallpox and these different diseases that came over? So you might learn that they were very in tune with the earth, and that they had a lot of knowledge about diet and how to deal with each other on an interpersonal level that was sacred to them. And I feel like once you start to compare your culture to others, not in a better or worse kind of way, but just what's different and what's the same, you'll start to see that there's a lot that is the same. Family is something that's centered to everything. And in our culture as African Americans or as Black people, the elders in our family, the matriarchs in the family have a lot of power, and they influence us a lot because we rely on them so much. And so deprogramming sometimes means going against what they taught us, because even though they have a lot of influence, we have to sometimes question, what is it that they learned that wasn't right? You know what I'm saying? From the diet choices, a lot of our diet choices come from slavery, unfortunately, and us being programmed to eat the worst of the worst, the intestines of pigs, and, because we had no other choice. So it's like, how do we understand where we're coming from to understand where we're going? I think that's the first step to deprogramming, right?
Yes, sir. I feel that 100%. That was a great explanation.
That's a really great quote, understanding where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It relates to deprogramming. That makes a lot of sense. So going back, I guess I want to take it a little bit more full circle back to your work with Raw Soul Collective. I feel like you all have been doing so much work, right? And it seems like you're doing a lot of this work unpaid, Ajman. I asked you how many hours do you work a week, and you said 40. And I was like, oh my goodness,
Right.
that is so much work. And I know that there have just been a lot of pieces to figure out all the time, and you've had to transition from, delivering to each home to like finding a central place. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looked like?
I'm sorry.
That needed to happen.
What looks like? I'm sorry.
What it looked like
to do Raw Soul Collective?
Yeah, I mean, Raw Soul Collective has evolved so much in terms of what your tune-up boxes look like and how you distribute. I think that there are a lot of people on this call who really do want to do a lot of good in the world, and it can be really challenging. And so one of the things that we try and really instill in our student leaders is this resilience. And I think that, the example that you gave one time with me, Ajman, is that you used to deliver the boxes in your car to every single home. And I was just, oh my goodness, that seemed like an awful lot. And then finding out about all these different partnerships and evolving, that's not easy.
Okay. Raw Soul Collective, right now, we're focused on multiple fronts: media, direct communication with the community, or direct interaction with community in different forms, which is the grocery giveaway, which is the tune-up boxes. And we're also working on, as we get more, as we move out of this COVID scenario, we're moving into like cultural events, excuse me, which was actually the source of Raw Soul Collective. To kind of give you some context, me and Michael, we were kind of brainstorming like a year and a half ago on doing events that merged vegan food, music and community, and just kind of have folks come out and enjoy themselves, but also have like some healing modalities there, like massage therapy, or, maybe some facials or something like that, just kind of trying to think of a different model that could bring our community out. And once COVID hit, I think it kind of ignited like our want to give back. And we also saw it as an opportunity to build this brand that we're starting. So it's kind of like a dual thing. And so the sweat equity that we're putting in now, we definitely feel like it'll pay off later. So the goal now, on top of the media and the direct interaction, we're moving into this cooperative economic movement as well, which is the merging of these different organizations into the tune-up boxes. And the tune-up boxes are boxes that are filled with self-care items, organic vegetables, fruits, alkaline water, prepared meal. Give thanks to Black Sea Cuisine. Mandela Grocery was our first donor to these tune-up boxes. They already had donations ready to give, but we came in and fulfilled that role of actually getting it to the people, right? And, like you said, delivering these boxes was a lot. So we even had to realize like we could probably do this easier by having people come to us. But we actually want to reboot the delivery soon too, because elders can't always come out, and we definitely want to serve them as well. I know my great auntie was like, why haven't I got a box? And I'm like, dang, auntie, I'm sorry, I had to check myself. So I definitely feel like Raw Soul Collective right now is like Brotha Peace said, we give thanks to determination, right? Determination planted the seed for us. I got into Determination men's group as a young adult trying to find something productive to do. And my lady at the time passed that along to me. And I think the theme in what I'm saying right now is community and connections, because it was one person that led me to this next thing, that led me to these people, that led me to this brother. And you know what I'm saying? So it's all about like you being your authentic self and connecting with people who also are living an authentic life. And you guys can find middle ground. And whatever that middle ground is, that's the sweet spot of taking action. So, we were already on the diet and, divine masculine energy in the sense that we want to be better men for our communities. that's why we call it divine masculine. Just like women bring the divine femininity, it's just being your highest self in your specified way of coming to the world. And so what we're doing is realizing that we have a lot of commonality in that area. And so we thought, why not use food as a way to connect with our community? And so the Raw Soul Collective is an easy thing for us to do because we're kind of already doing it individually, and we're driven so deeply to see our people do well. We're just like, why not use this as a pathway for all of us to see prosperity? So that's where you start. It's just like, who's with you on the same wavelength? And then could y'all come up with something that you guys could do consistently? And maybe it's something that you guys do amongst each other, because also knowledge building is a service to the community, even if it isn't indirect, because you're gaining consciousness, you're learning. And if you know more, I don't know if you ever heard the phrase, you know better, you do better. So if you know more, you're actually increasing your value and you can bring more to the table. And especially if you guys are learning about food, like maybe you get with a community of folks, you guys learn vegan recipes. You might learn what different vegetables do. There's a lot of research that needs to be done on these different vegetables. You look them up and you might say, oh, these terms or these benefits are not, supported by the FDA or whatever. I feel like we just need more people to research these things on their own. And of course, you have a whole field that's dedicated to that. So I'm not saying you guys can circumvent the FDA, but I'm just saying that whatever you want to know, you can team up with folks and figure out, because one mind pales in comparison to multiple coming in and doing something and with a purpose, so that's my contribution. You want to add something, brother?
I resonate with everything you said. I'm grateful to just be in alignment, to be doing this work with y'all, because it's helping me grow so much as a man, and to be able to just connect with my brothers. Because growing up in my environment, doing stuff like this with another Black man would not happen. If anything, we're going to judge each other. Our ego is going to prevent us from coming together and seeing the good within each other. So this is a healing experience for me to work with my brothers collectively and to put our energy and effort and love into these boxes and time to connect with our community. It's really surfacing around for all of us to grow and just develop as a people, so I appreciate this.
Thank you. There are so many cool things happening in the chat right now with people sharing recipes and what they're eating, and including, of course, those chickpeas. And then people are also wondering how they can donate to Raw Soul Collective.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually about to start typing something in right now. Right now, we don't have like a official Cash App or anything specified. But if you guys just hit us up in the DM, we are working on that. So if you hit us up on Instagram at Raw Soul Collective, just let us know that you're interested in donating. We will get back to you as soon as possible with that information. We appreciate all the help. Thank you.
Yeah, your Instagram is becoming very active, I can see. And I really do like the name Raw Soul Collective. And collective, like you were insinuating earlier, is just about having multiple people together and many heads together to accomplish something, which I think was the original idea behind FFAC's name with the word coalition, is really just trying to build up support. And I know that a lot of the folks on this call are in some of our student leadership programs. And one of the things that we really try and instill is community as much as possible, really developing that type of support.
Community support is very necessary. We need that. We need to come together. We need to support each other as humans, and just to continue to develop and evolve and just be better people,
Yeah, I love going to Acta Non-Verba and seeing you all distributing the tune-up boxes, because there's so many people that come together to make it happen. And it's a very joyful thing. And for those of you who are not in Oakland, California, we've had some challenges this last year. I mean, everybody, I think, across the world can relate. But, in Oakland, I don't know if you want to list any of the things, the insane heat that we've been having, the air pollution has been really horrific. A lot of the racial justice stuff has been intense. And then the pandemic, and we've got photos of us wearing all these masks. We look like we're about to, go into this really, I don't know what it could be, like an underground bunker or something like that. And yet still we are trying to create community.
Yeah. I think we're in a wake up call. I think 2020 is a time of just seeing the real for what real is. You know, there's a lot of things coming to fruition. As far as we've been talking about this global warming thing for a while, and I think for California, folks are kind of like seeing it like, yo, this is not a joke. Like, you know, like this, the mask are one thing, but then it's like just the fact that the sky was orange. I feel like people were kind of like running with that, like, oh, it's apocalyptic, but it kind of, you know, it foreshadows at something very similar to that. And I think that it just calls upon us to really start to rethink some of the things that we are just so used to seeing, whether it be like gasoline and coal, or whether it be the overabundant meat industry, you know, or, you know, just how we treat one another. I think the whole Breonna Taylor situation, we need justice for that sister. And I feel like the way we treat each other in this country, it doesn't just stop at how we treat each other. It actually shows itself up in our food. It actually shows itself up in our school system. It actually shows itself up in these different institutions that are supposed to serve us, but they don't serve because things are misconstrued with, you know, bad intentions, and not necessarily of one individual, but the systems are not made to care for people as much as they state they are. And then the people, we take it upon ourselves to scream out loud to say, hey, this is enough. And I appreciate folks who do go out and say things. And so we need that, but we also need the people to take it upon themselves in their own industries and their own lanes to use their energy for positive change and to rethink where you are. So I'm just taking it upon myself and ourselves to change where we are. I can't raise my voice and hope that somebody's gonna hear me in Texas or somewhere else. Like, we have the internet, we could speak to them, but at the same time, my voice is more effective to someone in my neighborhood that I could holler at and be like, hey, I have nephews, you know what I'm saying? I have people that look up to me. So I have influence. I would say utilize your influence to change things, you know, because the direction that we're going right now is not a positive one if we don't take the reins and have some stewardship of our neighborhoods, you know?
Shit.
That was really beautiful. We could end on that, but before I go into the closing, is there anything else that you wanted to add, Ajman or Brotha Peace, before we wrap up?
I would like to say each and every individual in the chat that's tuning in, be gentle on yourself. Sometimes we can be hard on ourselves, and you know, sometimes we're going to make mistakes, you know, and especially on this path when you want to become health conscious and stuff, sometimes you might have a good week where you're not consuming certain things and then you might go back. So if you make a withdrawal and go back, it's okay. Like, acknowledge that and know that you still have the opportunity to adjust and better yourself. Sometimes you might fall off, but you could definitely pick yourself back up and get back and running and on track. So I would just say, definitely be gentle with yourself and just keep working on developing a divine connection with yourself. Nobody's going to have a better connection with you than you. So just genuinely tap into yourself and love yourself.
I second everything that brother said.
That is a fantastic way to end things. I just saw people nodding and saying, yes, we agree. Being gentle with ourselves is really important, especially now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a really huge fan of the Nap Ministry on Instagram. If anybody is on that, let us know in the chat if you're familiar with the Nap Ministry. All right, so as we close out, I again just want to sincerely thank Ajman and Brotha Peace for joining us today, for sharing their expertise, their insights with us, their continuous long journeys in this movement. We're really grateful at FFAC to be able to highlight the important work everyone is doing to further this whole plant-based movement. A reminder that we will be sharing a recording of today's discussion with everyone in a follow-up email, along with additional resources on the topics we discussed, and definitely will continue to plug Raw Soul Collective. Thank you to everybody who donated when they registered. As an educational nonprofit, FFAC is made entirely possible by the generosity of our supporters. So with your help, we can empower future leaders with the knowledge and skills they need to advocate for a more just, compassionate, and sustainable food system. And that is very much our goal. So our link is in the chat, or will be shortly. We have a lot of really wonderful events coming up. If you go to ffacoalition.org/events, which we'll put in the chat, you'll see that we've got volunteer happy half hour events. We've got a Culture Shift book club coming up. Our next webinar, like this one, is called Cookin' Vegan beefy green chili tacos. That'll be on Thursday, October 8th, and you can register for that as well. And again, I'm just so grateful that you all were able to join us today. Thank you so much for attending this event, and we look forward to seeing everybody again soon. Bye.